Alright, today we've got a video, and this is how I plant avocado trees. Avocados are pretty sensitive. I've made a few mistakes on avocado trees. One mistake that I made was watering them with Epsom salts. They don't like fertilizer of any kind except for a proper mix. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with the avocado. Alright, now the first thing I've got to do is make sure that tree's not root bound. A lot of times when you get a tree from the nursery, it is very root bound. This one doesn't seem too bad. In fact, it's looking very good. It's got a little bit of root turning, but it's not too bad. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the soil from the nursery off of it. Not because it's bad soil, but because I want to make sure I know where the roots are going, and they need to go straight down. As you can see, those hang a lot longer than the pot depth. And that's kind of what we want. Now this soil will be going right back onto the avocado because it's a special mix for avocados. So there we go. Untangle the roots a little bit. We don't need them all messing with each other. Okay. That's what we got. First thing to do is dig your hole. The next thing I do is put a little bit of that citrus avocado mango mix in there. About a 1/3 cup. Don't need to be too much. And we mix that down deep in the hole. You don't want it all clumped together. Now, here's for the real trick. See, I dug the hole about the depth of the length of the roots. To give you an idea how big that is, this bucket goes underground, okay? And I still do need to dig a little bit more out. Just to get the root depth as deep as they'll go. Now the point of this is so that instead of having a tree that doesn't have very good root system and kind of it feels like it was transplanted, the tree will be a little bit more prone to grow a root system more like a native tree. Now, you'll notice I'm putting a lot of that nursery mulch and soil in the bottom of the hole instead of the top. There's a good reason for that. All those nutrients are going to send the roots downward, which is where we want the avocado's root systems to go. Now, these trees, if I'm not mistaken, their root systems are not very deep anyway, but it'll get it set up here in Florida where the sand is very dry in the summertime if it doesn't rain. So we're trying to set up for success instead of, you know, maybe having a problem with our little plant. Now, one thing you'll notice is when I plant a tree like this, I stop halfway through and give it some water and wash the sand and soil down into the ground a little bit. It makes sure the roots are all covered and we don't have any air pockets down there. And that's what we want. We want the roots to have proper soil. They want the tree to flourish, and we want the root system to grow downward. The next thing I'm going to do is I've got some old construction material, old 2x4s and whatnot. Avocados really like mulch, or even like a hugelkultur mound around their base, old rotten wood, tree leaves, debris. They don't like fertilizer at all. That's why I used a very mild fertilizer. And they kind of like, they like the root system protected from drought. So if you can get your hands on some old tree limbs or something that's just crumbling and falling apart, or, you know, wood chips or what have you, you can put up to about a foot around the base of a avocado tree, and it'll be just fine. And you'll have to continue adding 4 to 5 inches every year of mulch, but they'll do real well like that. That's what my best tree out here, that's what I had done to it. And I didn't fertilize it too much. I put just a little bit of Epsom salts on it and kind of like went on to the next one. And of course I told you in another video about burning the roots on that other one with the Epsom salts, and that's all it was. So you have to be careful with that stuff. Don't put too much on it, if any. And definitely do not fertilize with nitrogen-based fertilizer, or even an ordinary fertilizer that's not designed for avocados. Just 2 teaspoons of regular fertilizer will cause the trees to drop their leaves and die. And the other thing you can't do with an avocado is don't fertigate at all. I mean, don't spray the leaves or fertilize with anything, except for specially designed formulas for it. I had a little avocado tree over at my folks' house, and I sprayed it with rot water, and it dropped its leaves within 3 days. So avocados are very sensitive. They're very susceptible to environmental changes in terms of fertilizer, and only use natural based wood chips that haven't been treated with anything, or oak leaves or something really simple like that, where it's going to be completely natural. Otherwise you're going to end up with a problem and your tree is not going to survive. So I'll show you how I do the little mound around the avocado tree now. The first thing I do is lay a perimeter down around the outside edge. I just cut some 2x4s up with an old double-bladed logging axe and set that around the perimeter. Alright, and then of course you stack the perimeter up again because, well, I had some logs, and it doesn't ever hurt to have extras on these things. And that's the finish of it, with a little hugelkultur deer protection. I just took some 2x4s and stacked them around the edge, and that'll help the water run down the 2x4s a bit and water that. Now a setup like that is a little bit better than what you'd think. I mean, it looks ugly, and it is ugly, to be honest with you, but because you have a lot of airspace underneath it, and it keeps the sun from actually warming the soil up, here in Florida anyway, it helps the plants to grow better because their root system stays cooler. The other thing I noticed, I did the same thing with a peach tree, 2 peach trees actually, yesterday and this morning. And the peach tree that I watered yesterday, and of course this is Florida sand, so water goes right through it. The peach tree that I watered yesterday was still wet, and the one that I watered this morning was still pretty wet. So take that with a little bit of grain of salt, and keep in mind that your actual moisture zone is going to be around the edge when those logs decay a little bit, and you'll have to add some more branches or what have you. So far it's worked pretty good on all the trees that I have out here. It keeps the root zones fairly moist, and it seems to attract beneficial critters like toads and skinks and snakes and millipedes and centipedes and whatnot, and those things all eat bugs that'll eat your plants. So that's a good thing, and not a bad thing in my opinion. It also attracts carpenter ants, which is not that great, and it might even attract termites, but considering that it does that with mulch anyway, that's not that bad of a deal. And the upside to it is that style doesn't seem to attract fire ants at all. In Florida, a fire ant mound will move in somewhere in less than 3 weeks, and I've had these out here for at least that long. Haven't noticed any fire ants trying to move in. The only thing I did notice was what I listed off. Alright y'all, I hope you liked it. If you did like it, subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day, YouTube.